All right, everybody. Today is the day we're going to be going over the new updates from n8n. And honestly, you're going to see what they talk about here, but they're not flashy. And honestly, I think, and I agree with them, that's not a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing. A lot of times when people have major changes or major updates like version 2, like version 1 to version 2, you expect all these big, flashy updates that oftentimes either break or aren't really what customers want. n8n is doing it right because they're focusing on security, reliability, and stability moving into the future. And, along with those lines comes some nice little additions that people have just been wanting, small, simple features. So let's jump right in and talk about what these changes are and how you can best utilize them and leverage them to increase your n8n building and production. All right, so I'll drop this link in the comments below. But this is the official introduction of version 2 for n8n. Notice here, the very first thing, the focus of 2.0 is security, reliability, and performance. I really like how right here, but that's not what this release is about, and honestly, that's a good thing. They're talking about how version 1 and version 2 it really isn't that big of a jump in terms of features and all that. Like I said, really focusing on the reliability of the software moving forward. So just going to go over this just for a second, talking about, the focus of 2.0, security, reliability, and performance. So biggest security, they've tightened up those security widgets because a lot of times, in my experience, I'm implementing this n8n infrastructure for people who are wanting to prioritize their security and the privacy of the company. Oftentimes we self-host it on a different server, and that allows them to control and own their data. And so what n8n is realizing and recognizing is that is a big selling point of this software. And so improving that is number one in their priorities. And so the theme is secure by default. If it workflow rely on any of the previous more permissive behaviors, still enable them, but you'll need to do it explicitly. So really good. I really like this thing, especially when it comes to running code. That's probably, n8n allows for a lot of flexibility, but the code can sometimes, access things that it might, shouldn't have, or et cetera, et cetera. And so security, tighten things up is really cool improvement of version 2. The next thing, reliability. This is just kind of allowing for, helping the system be reliable to in all use cases. Like, for example, this one is a really big example. Some workflows with wait nodes now correctly return data from the end of the workflow instead of the input to the wait node, and we've removed nodes for services that no longer exist. Less optionality, fewer edge cases, more predictable behavior. This is a really, really important one because before what was happening was they were sending, have you ever had an agent node? So if you come over here to this agent node that I have, this is my Talon personal assistant. You can actually come in here and create a tool. So we can use the Slack tool, and we can do a send and wait for response. And what this will allow us to do is it essentially allows the AI agent, let's say we're doing a human in the loop, like, hey, let's say my workflow is I want to have it read all my emails and draft responses. It can send me one of the responses it has, and actually I'll probably be implementing this here soon. And I can either approve or decline. And not only approve and decline, but I can also put free text or I can even add a custom form where I can say, hey, depending on like, hey, make these improvements and send me another wait response until I get it right. And we have a continuous feedback loop until I'm happy with what it is. And then it fires it off. Okay. So, but the difference that they're explaining here is before what would happen is we would send that wait node and then the agent wouldn't know if it was approved or denied. It's actually a really big flaw, honestly. Like I remember I didn't build with that wait node when it came to AI agents because I couldn't get a response on what was happening. And so now this is a huge update because now whenever, like, let's say I send and wait, if they respond with a free text, my AI agent can consume that and iterate and then continue on the pipeline of what it's supposed to be doing. Whereas before, honestly, send and wait nodes within AI agents were really irrelevant and not easily used. So huge thing that they're updating here. Not easy to see, but is very powerful. And again, like I said, it's in the case of right here, if you have an AI agent and one of your tools is to send message and wait for a response, it typically would just the output of this agent would just be the input that was given. That's not very useful, honestly, because like I wanted to see hey, was this approved or not? And that wasn't an option. And so this is a huge update for the AI agent node, and everybody should be really crazy about this, honestly. Like that alone, worth the version 2. And then performance, look, they're not saying it's going to be dramatic, but they are showing that they're prioritizing that and allowing it to be something really important. Okay. Something that you will see right away that I think is really awesome. So they did prioritize a lot of under the hood changes, but one thing that they did improve was the way that you publish changes. Before, if you saved your work, that was now live. Like it was ready to be used. Like let's say you have a webhook. Like let's say over here in Talon's use case, let's say I wanted to change a way that the workflow, performed and functioned. Let's say like if I'm using this actively, if I put a new node in here or did a different redirect or a different route, that the moment I click save, that would immediately go into effect. And if I would have started messaging Talon or if emails were coming through and Talon was reading those, then that would have gone into effect immediately. Not what you want whenever you're working on a production level workflow like this one. And so notice how also I was able to save it. And even though there's this error, that publish right here, one node has issues, fix before publishing. And it tells you what needs to be fixed. Huge update, okay? And then so let's say I come in here and I change this and we just put test for now, just get the error away. I save it with Command S. Now that publish has a little red dot above it because there were changes now. So I come in here and I can also put a version and I can also describe. It's basically like a commit message. And then if I come in here and I can actually publish it, now that is live, okay? And you can come in here to the workflow history and you can actually see that version and what was published. And you can also see all my saves beneath that version. Huge update. I mean, massive, massive update. Because like I said before, you had to save, and the moment you saved, everything would go into production. Now you can save and keep your work, but not publish until you're ready. Huge opportunity. Great addition to the workflow, the n8n workflow. In addition to this is a little bit of a sneak peek to their groundwork for an autosave feature, which, oh my goodness, I cannot wait for that autosave feature. It looks like it's going to be coming out in January 2026 because that is going to be huge. And I mean huge, to not have to constantly be doing, Command S, Command S, Command S, or just clicking to save oneself. So really awesome opportunity. Next thing that you'll notice is the canvas itself. They're subtle, but you can notice how this background here is a little bit more subtle, a little more futuristic. You can also notice if you hover over each of these little dots, it now kind of has a nice little hover effect. So basically, whenever you run the workflow, now instead of, before it had like the little red spinning arrows, now what it'll do is it'll actually have a nice little highlight effect that'll rotate as each node is running. So again, really small addition, but fun little UI effect whenever you're the one that is actually doing this 24/7. It's just kind of fun to have a nice little UI, little more futuristic, more sleek, more clean. One other thing that they've introduced is this migration report. So if you're worried, hey, am I ready for version 2? Are things going to go well for me if I do this jump? You can go to this migration report in your settings right here, migration report, and it will show you what issues you have on your workflows and what issues you have on your instance. Okay? And it'll also show you, the priority of whether or not they're needed to be taken care of. And you can also look at what the workflow is. Notice how this one's deactivated, so I'm not too concerned about it. But this migration report will allow you to see, hey, what is needed to be updated or adjusted before I run this version 2 update, or if you've already ran, what do I need to fix to be able to make sure that those workflows are working and are good to go. Okay, there you have it for the overview of version 2 of n8n. It's honestly a great new update, like I've been saying, great for reliability, security, and performance overall. And there are those small adjustments that are really needed. And I can see a lot of those adjustments and improvements coming out within the coming months. And don't forget to be looking forward to that autosave feature that's coming in January. Okay, awesome. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, if you want to see more content on n8n and AI automations. Catch you next time.